President Trump's first 100 days in office. But to be fair and balanced, let's look at the Democrats' first 100 days. That's the subject of tonight's Waters Words. By the way, our friend Mark Thiessen wrote an excellent column about this the other day in the New York Post, which everybody should read. So the Democrats have spent the last 5 months pushing a conspiracy theory that said Trump was Putin's puppet. That went up in smoke when the president fired 59 Tomahawk missiles into Syria. And on the investigative front, here's the latest. Listen to what Senate Democrat Dianne Feinstein said.
Do you have evidence that there was, in fact, collusion between Trump associates and Russia during the campaign?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Meanwhile, the head of the Democratic National Committee, essentially the new face of the Democratic Party, Tom Perez, has come unglued.
My mama taught me you shouldn't do potty talk, but I hope you don't mind because this is a budget. Those Republican leaders and President Trump don't give a about the people they were trying to hurt.
Wow. And then there's the former leader of the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton, who came out of the woods the other day and took no responsibility for her devastating defeat.
I was on the way to winning until the combination of Jim Comey's letter on October 28th and Russian WikiLeaks raised doubts in the minds of people who were inclined to vote for me but got scared off.
Sure, Hillary. But adding insult to injury, even her Democratic colleagues are sick of her and are telling her basically, get off the stage.
We have to take full responsibility for this. If Democrats are fighting for America's working families, then it is up to us to make that clear.
Jim Comey didn't say don't put any resources into Michigan until the final week of the campaign. It takes a lot of work to lose to Donald Trump. Let me tell you, he was the least popular presidential candidate to win in the history of polling.
And remember, those are her friends. And more Democrats have been turning on each other after the former President Barack Obama announced he'd be taking $400,000 to speak to a bunch of Wall Street fat cats. He was criticized by none other than Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders.
I was troubled by that. One of the things I talk about in the book is the influence of money. I describe it as a snake that slithers through Washington.
I think it just does not look good. It's not a good idea, and I'm sorry that President Obama made that choice.
It's gotten so bad that Bill Maher has become the voice of reason within the Democratic Party. Here's his advice.
This is, again, one of the problems the Democrats have, is that they obsess about things like Halloween costumes and the name of the Washington Redskins, and there's millions of people in this country who are saying, how about a little bit more of, I'm going to get your job back.
And while the left is devouring its own in Washington, it's not much better out there on the streets, with people like Madonna threatening to, do something to the president. Perhaps inspired by radical celebrities, look at what the far left is doing in Berkeley, California. Burning things, destroying private property, and throwing fists. And look at some of the latest polling. Democrats are now seen as much more out of touch with regular everyday Americans than billionaire Donald Trump. In fact, Americans now believe the Democratic Party is the party of the rich. How did that happen? So taken all together, Democrats have been completely shut out of power. They're behaving like children, and there's no end in sight. For Democrats who say Trump has had a rough 100 days, take a look.